Now let's look at the knowledge and experience model, and we'll look at case difficulty. There's this idea called the Pareto principle. Most of us know it as the 80-20 rule. Pareto, an economist back in Italy years and years and years ago, he saw 20% of the people held 80% of the land or the wealth. That same principle applies to agriculture. 20% of your seed produces 80% of your yield. Organizations, 20% of your people might produce 80% of your results or your revenue. So let's look at how the Pareto principle applies to case difficulty. So let's look at this pyramid and consider this pyramid represents all of the cases or issues being solved by an individual or an organization over time. And the bottom of the pyramid is bigger, and hopefully it represents the majority of the cases or problems that come your way that are relatively solvable, relatively within your ability to solve them. They're cheap. They're quick fixes. As you work up the scale, they get harder and harder to solve. And at the very top, they're really expensive. Instead of pennies, we're dealing with dollars, for example. And these are the ones where we have to pull out all the stops. It's going to take longer. We have to put more resources and use more expensive people to solve them. Now let's map that into what I call the KT head, the skills model. Let's say the Pareto principle, 80% of your cases are relatively within your ability to solve it with some degree of effort. But you're going to lever typically about 20%, the minority of that technical training that they got, the technical knowledge and experience that they have. And there's going to be a lot of that knowledge and experience that's not relative to the concern at hand. So what do you do about the remaining 20%? How do you solve those? The thing that saves you is your strategy. If nobody's ever seen it before, you can't rely on knowledge and experience, but you need a strategy to manage your way through it, to gather certain data, do a certain analysis, come up with conclusions about cause, and work with others to solve that. So methodology is your friend on the tough cases. It's kind of the simple way to distill that down. And it makes those expensive cases less expensive. Now let's extend this discussion about case difficulty into two broad job roles. You have the junior engineer and the senior engineer. Let's start with the senior engineer. We've got the case difficulty pyramid, hard cases at the top, easy ones at the bottom. The seasoned engineers, we expect them to solve the hard cases. After all, that's why they're in the higher pay grade. So they live in that domain. We also expect them to mentor our junior engineers. After all, who are the junior engineers going to go for help? It's going to be the senior folks. So we're going to have them shepherd them along. And eventually, the senior engineers, they might go into some other job role and want to backfill with the junior guys. So we need them to mentor. If they're going to be mentoring, we want the junior guys to duplicate correct behaviors, correct strategy, so the senior guys should be modeling best practices. Consequently, to solve the hard cases and to be effective at mentoring, we need a proven strategy for the senior guys. Now, they have good knowledge and experience, but they also need a good methodology to solve the tough cases, to mentor the junior guys. Now, the junior engineers, there's our junior guy over there. Let's look at his case difficulty pyramid. It's upside down for a reason, because everything he looks at looks hard. He doesn't have knowledge and experience. He can't draw on the previous experience to solve those. So that engineer is going to be highly dependent on the more senior person. So how do we look at methodology here? Well, we want this engineer, the junior person, to make the most of the initial contact with the customer. They're going to need to go to the senior person. That's kind of a given. But rather than have them panic in their boots, say, oh my God, it's a tough case, now what am I going to do? Instead of having them just panic and run to the senior guy and get spoon-fed one thing to do at a time, it would be good if they can wring out every last drop of value, every last drop of data, and maximize that initial contact, and then go to the senior guy armed with useful information. And maybe the senior guy will be able to say, here's the solution, as opposed to, well, I need more data you should have got initially. Okay? So to help that junior engineer make the most of the initial contact and make the most of that time where they're learning about knowledge and experience, they need a sound methodology. So both domains, seasoned engineers and junior engineers, for slightly different reasons, they need a sound, proven methodology.